During my daughter's birthday party, I saw my daughter-in-law quietly sprinkle something into the cake while everyone was singing. She thought no one had noticed that I didn't say anything, that I took the plate she had prepared and walked straight over to her. Actually, I said calmly, you should take the first bite. The room fell completely silent. During my daughter's birthday party, I saw my daughter-in-law quietly sprinkle something into the cake while everyone was singing. She thought no one had noticed. I didn't say anything. I took the plate she had prepared and walked straight over to her. Actually, I said you should take the first bite. The room fell completely silent. For a moment nobody moved. The candles were still burning on the cake in the middle of the table. My daughter Megan stood there with the knife in her hand, looking confused. My son Daniel was standing beside his wife Rachel, smiling a second earlier, but that smile disappeared quickly. Rachel looked at the plate in my hand. Why me? She asked. You prepared this piece, I said. It only seems fair. She looked around the room as if hoping someone would laugh and break the tension. No one did. Daniel stepped forward. Mom, what's going on? Nothing, I said. Your wife was just helping with the cake. I thought she should enjoy the first slice. Rachel didn't take the plate. Her eyes went from me to the cake and back again. I've been watching her for a long time. Long before that moment. Rachel had been in our family for 3 years. From the beginning there was something about her that never sat right with me. She always knew exactly what to say to Daniel, exactly when to act sweet around the rest of us. Everyone else thought she was wonderful. But small things kept happening. Comments about money. Complaints about Daniel's job not paying enough. Quiet arguments that stopped the second someone walked into the room. I kept my mouth shut because Daniel loved her. That was the only reason. Until the cake. A few minutes earlier everyone had been gathered around the kitchen island. Megan's kids were yelling for us to light the candles already. My husband was opening a bottle of wine. Rachel said she would cut the first slice for me since I was standing closest to the table. I stepped away for a moment to grab plates from the cabinet. When I turned back I saw her. She had her back to everyone. Her hand moved quickly over the slice she had already placed on a plate. Something small and white fell from her fingers onto the frosting. Then she used the fork to spread the icing a little, like she was fixing the decoration. It happened in 2 seconds. No one else noticed. Except me. I didn't say anything right away. I walked over calmly and picked up the plate she had prepared. And now here we were. Rachel finally spoke again. Stephanie, you're being strange. Maybe, I said. But it's just cake. She didn't touch the plate. Daniel looked between us. Rachel, just take a bite so we can move on. Rachel's face changed in a way I had never seen before. Not angry. Not embarrassed. Nervous. My heart started beating harder because in that moment I realized something. If it was really just cake she would have eaten it already. But she still hadn't taken the plate from my hand. Rachel still hadn't taken the plate from my hand. Daniel looked confused. Megan was still standing by the cake, holding the knife like she wasn't sure if the party was continuing or ending. My husband slowly set his glass down on the counter. Rachel forced a small smile. This is ridiculous, she said. It's just a piece of cake. Exactly, I said. I held the plate a little closer to her. Then eat it. Daniel looked at her. Rachel, seriously, just take a bite so we can move on. For a second I thought she might actually do it. Her hand lifted slightly, then stopped halfway. Her eyes moved again to the cake on the table. Then she said something that made the silence even heavier. I don't really like frosting. My daughter Megan frowned. Rachel, you were the one who picked the cake from the bakery. Rachel didn't answer her. Instead she looked directly at me. Why are you doing this? I shrugged. Because a minute ago I watched you sprinkle something onto this slice. The words landed in the room like something breaking. Daniel stared at me. Mom, what are you talking about? I never took my eyes off Rachel. You had your back turned to everyone. But I was standing right behind you. Rachel laughed quickly, but it sounded forced. You're imagining things. Am I? I placed the plate slowly on the kitchen island between us. Then maybe we should switch. I took another clean plate from the stack beside the cake. Megan was still frozen, watching everything. Cut me a new slice, I told her. She did it automatically and handed it to me. I pushed the fresh slice toward Rachel. Here. Take this one. And I'll take the one you prepared. Rachel moved so fast she nearly knocked the chair behind her over. Oh. The word came out louder than she expected. Everyone looked at her. Daniel blinked. Why not? Rachel's face had lost all color. Because this is insane, she said. Your mother is accusing me of something crazy in front of everyone. I nodded slowly. Then it should be easy to prove me wrong. Just eat the slice you made. The kids in the living room had stopped playing. Even they could feel something strange was happening in the kitchen. Daniel looked at Rachel again, waiting. Seconds passed. Then something small rolled across the counter. None of us noticed at first. It made a tiny sound against the granite. Megan leaned forward and picked it up. It was a crushed white tablet. He stared at it, then looked at Rachel. What is this? Rachel didn't answer. And that was the moment Daniel finally understood that this wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. Daniel stared at the crushed white tablet in Megan's hand. No one spoke for several seconds. Rachel finally said, I don't know what that is. Megan looked down at it again. It was half powdered, like it had been pressed between fingers before falling apart. You dropped it just now, Megan said. Rachel shook her head immediately. That's not mine. Daniel turned toward me. Mom, did you actually see her put something in the cake? Yes, I said. Rachel laughed again, but it sounded thin. This is unbelievable. A random pill appears and suddenly I'm poisoning people? No one answered her. My husband walked closer to the counter and looked at the tablet. He didn't touch it. Daniel slowly picked it up with 2 fingers. What is it? He asked. Rachel crossed her arms. I said it's not mine. Daniel stared at her for a long moment. Then he said something that surprised even me. Then you won't mind if we check. He pulled out his phone and took a picture of the tablet. Megan was already opening her laptop on the kitchen table. One of the kids from the living room peeked around the corner. Megan told them to go back and play. The kitchen felt smaller with every second. Rachel suddenly stepped forward. Give me that. Daniel pulled his hand back. Why? Because this is ridiculous, Rachel said. Daniel ignored that and turned the tablet slightly in the light. There were faint letters pressed into the surface. Megan leaned closer to the screen of her laptop, typing quickly. Daniel read the letters out loud. Diddle. Megan stopped typing. Then she looked up slowly. Oh no. Daniel frowned. What? She turned the laptop toward us. It's amlodipine. The name meant nothing to Daniel. I could see that immediately. But it meant everything to me. Amlodipine is a medication that lowers blood pressure. The room stayed quiet for another second. Then Daniel looked at Rachel again. Why would you have this? Rachel opened her mouth, but no words came out. Megan looked between us. Mom? Aren't you the one who can't take blood pressure medication? I nodded. My doctor had told me a year earlier that certain medications could cause a dangerous reaction with the condition I had. Daniel turned back toward Rachel. And then he asked the question none of us wanted to ask. Were you planning to give this to my mom? Rachel's eyes moved quickly around the kitchen, like she was trying to find a way out of the moment. But the tablet was still sitting in Daniel's hand. And the slice of cake she prepared was still on the counter. Untouched. The slice of cake Rachel had prepared was still sitting on the counter. No one had touched it. Daniel looked from the pill in his hand to the cake and then back to Rachel. Were you planning to give this to my mom? Rachel didn't answer right away. Instead she said something completely different. You're all overreacting. Megan stared at her. Overreacting? Rachel pointed toward the tablet. That could belong to anyone. Maybe it fell out of someone's pocket earlier. Daniel shook his head slowly. No one here takes that medication. I do, my husband said quietly. Everyone turned toward him. He nodded once. My doctor prescribed it last year. For a second Rachel looked relieved, like she had just been handed a way out. She said quickly. That explains it. But my husband continued speaking. I keep my pills in a bottle in the bathroom cabinet. I didn't bring any to the kitchen. Rachel didn't respond. Daniel placed the tablet back on the counter. Then he looked at the slice of cake again. There's one way to settle this, he said. Rachel crossed her arms again. This is stupid. Daniel ignored her and walked to the drawer beside the sink. He pulled out a small plastic bag and slid the slice of cake carefully inside. We'll have it tested. Rachel's head snapped toward him. Tested for what? Daniel sealed the bag. For whatever you tried to put in it. Rachel laughed again. You think a lab is going to test your birthday cake? If I ask, they will, Daniel said. For the first time she looked genuinely worried. This is insane, she said. You're humiliating me over nothing. Megan spoke for the first time in several minutes. Then eat it. Rachel looked at her. Eat it and we'll drop the whole thing. Rachel's jaw tightened. I'm not eating a slice of cake that's been sitting on the counter during this circus. Daniel shook his head slowly. That's not the reason. Rachel looked at him. You think I tried to hurt your mother? He didn't answer right away. But you didn't take the first bite when she asked, he said. You didn't take it when I asked either. And now you won't even touch the cake you prepared. Rachel's eyes narrowed. So you're choosing her over me. Daniel looked tired suddenly. I'm choosing the truth. For a moment it seemed like Rachel might explode. Her hands were shaking slightly on the counter. Then she said something none of us expected. Fine. She grabbed the plastic bag from Daniel's hand, opened it and pulled out the slice. If that's what everyone wants. She raised the fork. But right before the fork reached her mouth, the front door opened. And a voice from the hallway said something that froze everyone again. Police. We need to speak with Rachel Collins. Police. We need to speak with Rachel Collins. Everyone in the kitchen turned toward the hallway. 2 officers stepped inside the house. I recognized one of them immediately. Officer Grant lived 3 streets over and had come to neighborhood meetings a few times. He looked at all of us, then his eyes landed on Rachel holding the fork and the slice of cake. Rachel Collins? He asked. Rachel slowly lowered the fork. Yes. Officer Grant stepped forward. We need you to come with us for a few questions. Daniel looked stunned. What is this about? The second officer spoke. A report was filed this afternoon concerning possible prescription fraud and illegal possession of medication. Rachel's face changed again. That's ridiculous, she said quickly. Officer Grant glanced at the counter and noticed the crushed tablet. What's that? No one answered right away. Daniel pointed at it. Amlodipine. The officer looked at Rachel. Do you have a prescription for that? Rachel shook her head. No. The second officer stepped closer. We received a complaint from a pharmacy. Someone has been filling prescriptions under a different name using falsified information. Daniel looked completely lost now. What does that have to do with Rachel? Officer Grant looked at him calmly. The name used on the prescription belongs to a woman who reported it this morning after noticing charges on her insurance. Rachel's fingers slowly loosened around the fork. Daniel looked at her. Rachel, what is he talking about? Rachel didn't answer. Officer Grant continued. The pharmacy security camera shows the person picking up the medication. It matches your wife. Daniel stared at her like he was waiting for her to deny it. He didn't. Instead she said something quiet. It's just blood pressure medicine. Daniel's voice came out sharp. Why were you stealing it? Rachel finally looked at him. Because I needed it. For what? She glanced toward me for a brief moment. Then she looked back at Daniel. I told you before, your mother hates me. The room felt colder suddenly. Daniel frowned. What does that have to do with anything? Rachel hesitated. Then she said the words that made Megan cover her mouth. I just wanted her to feel what it's like to lose control for once. Daniel stared at her. What does that mean? Rachel nodded toward the cake still sitting on the counter. It wasn't supposed to hurt her permanently. Just enough to scare her. Daniel looked like the floor had dropped under him. You tried to drug my mother. At Megan's birthday party? Rachel didn't answer. The officers exchanged a glance. Officer Grant spoke again. Rachel Collins, we need you to come with us. Rachel looked at Daniel one last time. But he had already stepped back from her. Like he didn't recognize her anymore. And that was only the beginning of the worst part of that night. Because the truth about Rachel was much bigger than just that pill. Rachel looked at Daniel one last time. But he had already stepped back from her. Like he didn't recognize her anymore. The officers asked her to come with them. Rachel didn't argue this time. She placed the fork on the counter and walked toward the hallway. Daniel didn't follow. The front door closed and the house became quiet again. The kids in the living room started talking loudly, unaware that anything serious had just happened. Megan slowly sat down at the kitchen table. What just happened? No one had an answer. Daniel stood near the counter, staring at the slice of cake still sitting inside the plastic bag. I had never seen him look like that before. Not angry. Just completely shocked. Finally he said, I didn't know. I believed him. He sat down across from me. Mom, how long did you think something was wrong? I told him the truth. From the beginning. I explained the small things that had bothered me over the years. The comments about money. The way Rachel pushed him to distance himself from friends and family. The arguments that stopped whenever someone else walked into the room. Daniel listened without interrupting. When I finished, he rubbed his face and said something quietly. I kept making excuses for her. The police called later that night. Rachel had admitted that she had been getting prescription medication using other people's information for several months. The officers also told Daniel that the pharmacy had been investigating for a while before finally filing the report that afternoon. The timing was the only reason the police showed up when they did. If they had come 30 minutes later, none of us might have known what Rachel was about to do. Daniel filed for divorce 2 weeks later. Rachel tried to call him many times after that. At first she apologized and said everything had been a misunderstanding. Later she started saying she just wanted to talk. Then she showed up at his apartment once. Daniel didn't let her inside. Months passed. One evening Daniel came over for dinner. We were sitting at the same kitchen table where the birthday party had happened. He told me Rachel had contacted him again. This time she said she had made a mistake and wanted another chance. Daniel looked at me and shook his head. I should have listened to you earlier. I told him something simple. You needed to see the truth yourself. Rachel never came back after that. Sometimes I still think about how close that moment was. If I had looked away while grabbing those plates from the cabinet, I never would have seen what Rachel dropped onto the cake. And my son might still be married to someone capable of something far worse than what happened that night. Instead, the truth came out in front of everyone. Right before she took the first bite,